Every time we say the season officially gets underway, this game, we always have to backtrack a little bit. So now that we're here against the Charlotte Hornets, once again, a familiar opponent, it's almost as if this is a team that we have to focus on, but we don't because they are not good very much either. That said,
preseason basketball is back in mid-December, baby.
And you need to get a W by any means necessary, so get it done against the Charlotte Hornets again. Game 3 of 4 games that they have overall. Game 3 tonight, Game 4 on Friday, and then they are done. No more teal that Kyle has to deal with. Sixers get 4 wins maybe out of this series, and they can add those to the W side. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers Pregame Show presented by Coors Light. Visit CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. Kyle Newbeck, I'm Devon Gibbons. Bree is with us as well. All of you in the chat will have our post-game show here a little bit later. Derek will be with us for that. But we have to start with where things have gone. Since Kyle joined us on Friday after the post-game show, the injuries occurred with Joel Embiid with the injury to his face. Then the concussion conversation with Kyle about Jared McCain, but what we did not get his thoughts on, of course, on the audio side, is Kyle's thoughts on, after talking so much about the concussion, we were not aware.
Mystery meniscus injury.
We were not aware of the meniscus injury to his left knee that's going to have him out for an indefinite amount of time. It requires surgery, of course, according to the team, and a sensation he has been for his rookie season through the 23 games. And the hits just keep on coming for this basketball team, even with the good stuff.
Yeah, so I joked over the weekend. I was like, Derek and I had reported good news. No concussion for Jared McCain on second eval.
Yep.
Guess we should have asked, hey, is there anything else that's wrong with him? Because there was nothing else we were aware of, and that comes out of nowhere.
Yep.
The Joel Embiid thing is, I guess, not the bigger thing, but the lingering thing that we have a little bit of a timeline, but it's one of those that 1 week could turn into 2, could turn into we just don't know. We're dealing with a lack of information. What a surprise on Joel Embiid's health. Mm-hmm. So now we're back to, can Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and a bunch of role players try to string together some wins? And I know Derek has forcefully pushed back on the tanking stuff, right? And we're going to have plenty of conversations about the draft and all kinds of other things. These guys, the guys who are left, all they can do is try to go out and form some form of synergy, right? Some form of chemistry, try to create a little bit of a stable environment. And so it's going to start with Maxey and Paul George, right? And so I think the big thing that I continue to look for, that we've been hoping for all season, is consistency from Tyrese Maxey. We haven't been able to get that, like a week of consistent performances, right? A week of good shooting, a week of, hey, he looks like the point guard, right? And I know that's been a contention in the chat and elsewhere, right? Is like, well, he's not a point guard. He's masquerading as one. He's more of a 2 guard or a combo guard, however you want to do it. But if the pressure is at least a little off of these guys now because Joel's out, because McCain's out, because these guys continue to slide in the standings, there's no pressure, then it's time to step up and just play free and maybe see a little bit of that, smile on his face for Tyrese Maxey and get back to the guy that he has been in seasons past.
And one of the things that could potentially help him in general is what he had done beforehand with Joel Embiid, where we saw the assist numbers go up. We saw the work that he did within the pick and roll
Look who
situation.
it is, by the way, as we get the zoomed out shot.
Hey, we're always fully equipped for the show, unlike the basketball team.
Well, we had Kyle late a couple days ago, and I'm late today. And now Devon, I guess later this week you've got to show
late
up
by 3 months,
through.
but
it's all right. I worked through it. We worked through it. But how much though, because of what we saw from Maxey with Embiid, as we said, he needed something to jumpstart him, and that did jumpstart him a bit. And how much of that though do you believe? Even with where he may not have that partner like he did with Joel Embiid to have the assist numbers go as high as they were, maybe it's Paul George, maybe it's Gershon Yabusele, maybe it's KJ Martin, who knows? But the scoring was also a big part of
KJ,
it.
there's been at least a little bit of chemistry with him in those pick and roll
it has
type
worked.
situations.
It's just not the finishing that we would see with
Yeah.
Joel Embiid, of course. But now that he did get his shooting going, he did get his offensive his points going a little bit there for a bit. How much of that do we believe, especially with the opponent? With all due respect, yeah, Josh Green's a good defender. Brandon Miller's a lengthy defender as well. They can throw some of those bodies at him, but this guy's an experienced scorer in this league, and anytime you get anything to get you going, see the ball go through the hoop. Already saw that for 2 games with Joel Embiid. Maybe that jumpstart him, though, here for an opportunity with Paul George again tonight.
I mean, I guess. I think the tough part is there's been no real rhyme or reason where early in the season we're saying, all right, it's Joel's not here. All right, Paul's not here. He's going to struggle. The shot selection is what it is because he's dealing with it. But even in the games where they've been, full strength, fully healthy or close to it, we're still seeing a lot of the same trouble for Maxey, right? So it's not always how it looked the other night, right? Where he turned the ball over a bunch of times. That generally is not the Tyrese Maxey struggle game we've seen this year. But he's missed open shots for most of the season, right? At this point, he's played 17 games. So he's getting close to a quarter season worth of games. And he's shooting under 41% from the field, under 31% from 3. In fact, he's a lot closer to 30% from 3. That's on good volume. And frankly, it's on a lot of good looks, right? And he has been, in many ways, a symbol of their team struggles, because if you just dive into the data, the open 3 percentage that they're shooting is still absolutely disgusting.
Yes,
it's like 26% on something like 14 or 15 open threes a game as a team. So as much as I would like to sit here and say, hey, maybe the last game is a get-right game for him as a scorer.
We're trying, folks.
It feels like when he steps forward as a scorer, well, then the playmaking suffers. Or when he has a good floor game, then the three-point shooting, then the scoring suffers. And so, look, I sympathize for Tyrese, right? Because he's been the one who's often been out there either by himself or with a limited cast, however you want to put it. But he's just got to be better, and they have to figure out ways to get him going, whether that's finding those partnerships, Devon, getting a couple games in a row of just good results, get him in the right mindset. I don't know what it is that's going to unlock Tyrese, but they need it badly if they want to try to save this season.
Well, and to your point, because you referenced some of the numbers, like open threes, way down, catch and shoot threes, way down, off dribble, way down. I've been diving into some of the numbers on the lineup combinations. He's shooting 20% from 3 when he shares a court with Embiid, and everyone just assumes he will get better shots with Embiid. The shots will go in. It's small minutes. We're talking about 60 minutes of play here, but those threes have not yet started going in. He's shooting 28.6% when he was sharing the floor with all 4 of the Sixers, the other 3, big 4, in Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Jared McCain. 31.7% in the 233 minutes when he's sharing the floor with Jared McCain. So, like, there isn't really the closest you can get is 36% when he shares the floor with Paul George, which luckily that is the one that you were going to have going forward here for the foreseeable future. But that's all of those are on such small sample size. There hasn't been a lineup combination that you have gone to and said that you have now unlocked Tyrese Maxey. And you don't want to put too much stock into that because it is still small sample size. But it's just I agree with what Kyle said earlier. The playmaking is, I think, where the clearest, like, that's where Joel Embiid is going to turn that around right now. Because last year, that's where you saw the big drop was when Joel Embiid was out, was Jared's playmaking was not up to par. He was still scoring decently individually. So far this year, you saw it right when Joel came back. All of a sudden, Tyrese was unlocked a little bit as a playmaker. I'm worried about
pocket pass.
It is easy when a 7-footer can just shoot that 16-footer all night.
Yeah.
But I am worried that even if he gets it going, and look, quite frankly, if Tyrese Maxey just all of a sudden started making shots, it would be terrific. Even with that, I'm worried that the playmaking and the rest of the offense is going to lag behind.
I would ask you, both you, this question. All that being said, and with the playmaking struggles that we've seen, looking at this lineup, do you need to give the ball to Paul George more to use him as, I'm certainly not going to call him a point guard, but it's the guy who's going to get them into their stuff, run the offense, and try to get Tyrese off the ball and use that off-ball gravity, the shooting threat, get him more, just try to get him as many catch and shoot looks as you can, because if you're going to get him going, it's a lot more likely you'll get him going that way, and then the pull-up shooting will come, than it is like, okay, the house is going to be on fire because you made a bunch of pull-up threes.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I would say that's the number one reason to get him going is to have Paul George as the guy kind of initiating things. He seems like he's starting the game off like that anyway when it's just those two, getting everybody else going. And then number two is he's the healthy one of the two. And if we want to see Paul George running off those screens, coming off those pin downs and doing those things, not just the 5 to 7 seconds of dribbling to get his mid-range shot off or getting to the basket and doing some good things with it, but because you want to see some more things overall within this offense. And he's the only one that can do that, Tyrese Maxey, not Paul George, where he can run the offense and he can be that scorer. He can come around those screens. He can run it until, as we know, until he's at 41 minutes in the game. But Paul George cannot. And he's still a little restricted with it. So if we're talking about the healthiest guy also with that, then I would say absolutely to try to get Paul George to do a little bit more of that. And maybe that will also open up some things with him with his outside shooting, the catch and shoot that we've talked about, where people have questioned why he's a catch and shoot player when he shouldn't be, when that is how he was a good catch and shoot shooter in his other stops. So if that is how they decide to unlock it, especially when Kyle Lowry's in and out of the lineup because of his injuries, or you have the same thing with Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson is in and out of the lineup, and when he is, he's scoring the basketball.
We're right back to those guys now being prominent, semi-prominent to prominent players in the rotation.
These are the two that are really going to run your offense, to kickstart the offense, to get everybody else going. But while they're getting everyone else going, they have to help each other out and get it going. And as we talked about this before, there were 3 offenses, man, coming into this season. The Embiid-led offense with the 3 of them on the floor, the Paul George, Tyrese Maxey offense when he's off the floor, Embiid, and then the Maxey running things when Paul George, or 4 offenses because it's Embiid and Maxey if Paul George is missing the game. But there is certainly a Paul George, Tyrese Maxey offense when Embiid is not on the floor. This shouldn't be that difficult, because they set this up. They told us Embiid was not going to be out there for games, and they told us George was not going to be out there for games. But if George is going to be with Maxey when Embiid is not on the floor, we know that those two are the hub of the offense to get everything going. And while he is restricted, and there are other injuries within the personnel
Even his restrictions, though, are like, it's at this point.
No, he's still a pro scorer. Yeah, he should still be able to pass the ball, score the basketball at least at a decent enough clip to get 17 a night with a decent, efficient shooting night. He should be able to do that. And that's why I'm saying this shouldn't be that difficult, especially when you're playing Charlotte again for 2 times in a week and you need to start collecting some W's. Come on. This shouldn't be that difficult.
It shouldn't be that difficult, and I'm glad it's not, because a Drummond, KJ Martin, Oubre starting lineup has the chance to be disgusting offensively.
Ugh.
It does. And you know that now I'm offensive option number 3, Kelly Oubre, and I've been shooting the ball pretty well. You know he's going to feel pretty good about his opportunity tonight. All right, we're going to come back. We'll get to the starting lineup, which is right there on the screen. But when we do, we'll talk about that. First, we have to tell you about a few of our friends here on the PHLY Sixers Pregame Show presented by Coors Light. And I'll tell you first about TrueMark. TrueMark Financial are good people here. TrueMark Financial helping us out as always. And with the proper coaching, you can help out your kids, your young folks in your life, whether it's your kids, your niece, your nephew, whoever it might be. You got them covered. You got them covered by teaching them about their financial responsibilities as they grow and learn about money. And the Greenlight app is changing the game and helping kids and teens learn how to earn, save, and spend wisely. The Greenlight app will help you do that. Savings goals, tracking their spending, and even getting allowance all right there with the Greenlight app. And most importantly, you make them feel independent because they get a little debit card there that they can have in their pocket and spend away responsibly, of course. So it's like coaching your kid through their very own financial game. And for TrueMark Financial members, it's free. You don't have to worry about any extra things that you have to pay for outside of making sure that your loved one is learning the financial responsibilities like you know for yourself. With the holidays right around the corner, now is the perfect time to introduce your kids to Greenlight. Get signed up today. Visit TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more information. Again, TrueMark.com/Greenlight for more info.
Hey guys, it's the holiday season, and nothing says the holidays like getting together with people, bringing people together with gifts. What would be a better gift than a group outing? Well, maybe not to see the Sixers right now, but perhaps the Flyers, maybe an Eagles game. There's all kinds of shows in the city around the holidays, right? We got Disney on Ice. We got theater. We got ballet. We got all kinds of different things around Philadelphia.
Rutgers basketball.
Even then, go see Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper. Listen, guys, all kinds of events, and you can get the best tickets for the best price through Game Time. They have lots of great features that I tell you about all the time on here, right? The panoramic seat views, so you can see in the app before you purchase your tickets exactly where you're going to be, exactly what that seat's going to look like. I think that's one of the best features a ticketing app can have, because you don't want to pay good money to go on a group outing and then get stuck behind a pole the whole time. Can't see the floor, can't see the stage. That won't happen with Game Time. And oh, by the way, they have their lowest price guarantee, because Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you can find a better deal. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Devon?
Game time. It's almost game time. In about 13 minutes until tip-off, Philadelphia 76ers taking on the Charlotte Hornets for the third time this season. Fourth time will be on Friday. Kyle's done with the teal, folks.
I have served my time watching the Hornets.
Those cool starter jackets, keep them away right now. He might rip them things to shreds if you bring them back.
Now, this is a real lineup for the Hornets tonight, which is different from the first two times they played. So they have LaMelo Ball is back. Mark Williams is starting. Miles Bridges.
Oh, he's back.
We won't talk about him too much, but he is also back. So they are all starting tonight, and those are guys that were not available for at least one of the games that we covered this season. So this is something closer to a full-strength Hornets team.
Yes.
And that is decidedly different than what the Sixers are putting out there on the floor tonight.
All right, knowing that, Derek, and looking at the starting lineup with Andre Drummond at the 5, no Yabusele, you get KJ Martin with Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Tyrese Maxey. That rounds out the starting 5 tonight. Knowing what Kyle just laid out for their starting 5 for the Charlotte Hornets, more like their basketball team versus this group where you do have 2 of at least the 76ers basketball team. And Kelly Oubre is typically in the starting lineup.
In the starting lineup.
But how do you see this, where the challenges for Nick Nurse now, once again, with them being shorthanded and having to get through this?
I mean, defensively, they have a pretty good group out there. Like, they've got some size, they've got some length, some athleticism. I think they should be able to compete. You've got your concern there with that 1-5 pick and roll in Drummond and Maxey. And obviously, LaMelo being back puts a lot more pressure on you, especially unpredictable pressure. He's liable to pull up at any point from 35 feet the moment he crosses that half-court line. Offensively is where my concern, and I sort of touched on that a couple minutes ago. Offensively is...
You guys hear those sirens outside? They're coming for the Sixers offense. They're going to throw all those guys in jail if they miss another 3.
And specifically that three-point shooting. They've got 2 good three-point shooters in that starting lineup, and those 2 are shooting like 29 and 31%. They're the 2 quote-unquote reliable shooters. They're the 2 that have to create a lot. So if there's not any spacing around them, I worry that you're going to get the tunnel vision version of Tyrese Maxey that's just looking to drive to the hoop, take wild shots, and not really looking to involve his teammates. And quite frankly, there's just not going to be all that many drive and kick opportunities anyway, because the rest of the guys around him can't shoot. I do worry quite a bit about this group.
And I do think we'll have to wait and see exactly how long this absence will be for Joel Embiid and how that plays out. I do think, given what we saw last year and what we've seen up to this point this season, you are seeing some of the challenges of Tyrese Maxey being a building block player, right? Like we would all sit here and say he's a great young player, right? Deservedly made an all-star team last year, was in rightful contention for All-NBA. But when you're a 6'1", 6'2" guard and you don't have significant playmaking skills, that puts a roster crunch elsewhere, right? Like you're going to have to find the playmaking from elsewhere. Now, normally it's easier to find playmaking in guys who are Tyrese Maxey's height. And so as you try to find someone who brings that to the table, who doesn't also compound the defensive issues, which is what we've talked about with Jared McCain, that he can balance that out, but then he brings a different set of problems. You start running into roster roadblocks and like, okay, how do we actually scale up with this guy? When Joel Embiid is healthy, we don't have to think about these things as much because Maxey is in more of a hybrid role where he's playing off the ball. He's using Joel's gravity in the middle of the floor to move around the floor. He is the point guard, but he doesn't have to do things that we traditionally think of as point guard things. It's similar to how it works for Jamal Murray in Denver, right? And obviously Jokic is a much better playmaker than Joel is, but the concept is the same. It's a lot of those two-man actions, middle of the floor, out to the wing, dribble handoffs, read and react off one another. And you don't have to focus so much on, okay, Tyrese has the ball in his hands and he's got to manipulate the defense and, find every open guy and make skip passes and do this and that. Well, now that Joel's not on the floor, and I shouldn't say now, he hasn't been on the floor most of the year, you can see what his limitations are. So that doesn't mean they can't win in the short term in this type of setting with Maxey as the guy. But if they are going to win, one, he's got to be better at this playmaking stuff. But two, he's got to be a lot closer to the career averages at minimum as a shooter, because if not, I don't know where the offense comes from.
Especially when we've seen him succeed at more often than not. Even with that 30-game sample size of last season where he struggled with Embiid out, we saw some really good games in there too. And he has a much better secondary player next to him in Paul George. And we're still not seeing those same type of results that we saw a season ago and that we have seen since he has been a partner with Joel Embiid, even if James Harden was out there. But James Harden missed occasionally some games as well. And Tyrese Maxey was still able to get some things done positively to keep them in the game.
They would lose a lot of the time, but he would play well. And that's the big difference this year, right? Is they're losing games, but he's also playing poorly. Yeah. So you can't even convince yourself like, oh, this is good for him. He's getting those number one option type reps. Yep. It just like he's getting hammered, and so is the team. That's not where you want to be.
No, and that's where the dip has been this season. Why is that? Of course, guys are in and out of the lineup, but that's not unfamiliar with this basketball team, especially with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey being in this role before. So that's the disappointing part. That's what we've talked about this before post-game when he's had some struggles. And we praised him, especially with that Chicago game. Even though he didn't shoot well, he made sure he rebounded and he assisted in that game. He passed the basketball. He did some really good things. And then he bounced back and came back again and did the exact same thing. But we need to see more consistency, especially with now Jared McCain being out. You don't have that other ball handler to help him with those duties outside of Paul George.
I was going to say, you might have one, but it's a guy who's 38 years old and who we've seen plenty of this year. And don't think he can turn the corner and beat anybody.
I just got really depressed just by hearing you describe that. Going back to one thing you just said, Devon, when you mentioned that he, Tyrese struggled last year without Joel. Here are his averages during the time between when Joel went out and when he came back. He played 37.5 minutes per game, 25.6 points, 5.6 assists, shot 44.1% from the field, and 37.6% from three-point range on 7.7 attempts.
That's a notable uptick.
This is a completely different level of struggling. He individually did not struggle all that much as a scorer. The real indictment came in terms of his playmaking, and I don't think any of us really necessarily held it against him too much because he wasn't playing with the talent needed to really elevate the offense, but he at least individually was able to withstand it a little bit. And was he up and down? Was it streaky? Of course, depending on the team and how aggressive they were at blitzing him and getting the ball out of his hands and how much defensive talent they had to throw at him, they could slow him down, but he at least had moments of individual brilliance, even if it wasn't consistent and even if the team itself wasn't scoring all that many points. That has not been the case here through a quarter of the way through the season. His great games, you could count on one hand. Even as an individual scorer, a lot of it has been way more inefficient than it was in prior years. He is slumping in a big way. And I do think a big part of it is, yes, there's not enough talent. Obviously, he plays well off of Embiid. Embiid creates space for him, uses that gravity, get him good looks. hide some of his playmaking deficiencies, hide some of his other deficiencies. Yes, that's all true. But also he is in midst of a really, really bad individual slump. I think he's in his head a little bit. He needs to turn it around real quickly.
All right. Steve Knowles sends a super chat that we just want to say thank you. And the fact that he's saying, buy yourselves something nice.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Buy myself a little stocking stuffer.
There you go.
How about that?
We can do that. We can definitely do
dinner
that.
in a minute.
Buy something nice with that one. We appreciate that again, Steve. Much appreciated as always with the super chats. Also saw in here where who was it that was saying? Oh, Spiral Out says, "Holy hell, the Hornets are 1-9 in their last 10. The Sixers are 5-5. I'm uploading a win." You like the positivity. The thing is that the Joel Embiid is out, and Jared McCain is also out, and
LaMelo's back.
The Hornets are getting. Their group back.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that they want to go out there and look pretty good, especially with the same opponent, 2 games over the course of 5 days. They want to go out there and show out a little bit here against the 76ers.
You know what I want to see? Something other than the damn Hornets. Man.
I know.
Like, just like give me something.
At least you get
another
all
interesting team.
It's just wild to have all of your games out of the way before Christmas. Like, how does that happen?
And then, oh, by the way, the Friday game is the front end of a back-to-back against the Cleveland Cavaliers, one of the top teams in the NBA. No big deal. No big deal at all. And quickly, Joel Embiid out for a week, reevaluated in a week. As you guys have confirmed that out and reevaluated. He'll miss all 3 games this week against the Hornets and the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yep.
There's that.
That's again, where we are.
As we've said a million times, and this isn't like not too much to it, but just because he's going to be reevaluated in a week doesn't mean he's coming back in a week. Who knows exactly how long that will be, what that will look like.
We could say, hey, he got reevaluated and the face is good. Now his arm's falling off. Apparently, that's the new Sixers thing.
He got gangrene, and now he only has one leg.
A guy gets evaluated for one injury. Hey, that's okay. But actually, a few hours later, his meniscus. Yeah. So, yeah. Needless to say, until you see Joel Embiid off of the injury report entirely, hold your breath.
I'm expecting them to go full Oregon Trail at one point. Like, you got dysentery or something. Like, who knows?
Well,
who knows?
Gangrene has won 10 in a row. That's the good thing. So we'll see what goes on with them. All right, it's time for our Bet365 pick segment here on the pregame show, brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
One of these days, I'm bringing in a cowboy hat for gambling Gibbons.
They're readily available. On the cheap too, you can get one.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't own one because why would I own a cowboy hat?
Yeah,
but I'll pop into a thrift store at some point, get Gambling Gibbons a cowboy hat.
Let's get to it. These now, I don't know with all those other guys back, but I'm gonna stick to it. I don't fade away. I just go right with it. Tyrese Maxey, assist and rebounds combined with Embiid out, Jared McCain out, who does crash the boards there for the 76ers, even at that guard position. Helping out on the glass and assisting. I had Tyrese Maxey 10.5 over assist and rebounds combined.
I might have to fade Gambling Gibbons tonight. I'm not feeling good about the Maxey part.
Now that everybody's back, including Andre Drummond in the starting lineup, and also Brandon Miller with everyone in the lineup for the Hornets, 21.5 over. We'll see how it goes tonight. Those picks brought to you by Bet365, not Kyle and Derek. And use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and is looking for help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. The Sixers have won 3 games in a row on the road. Will that streak continue tonight? One of those wins, the second one, was a 110-104 victory over this very Hornets team. They look a little different, but it's still the same organization. That's an L. I guess that streak is going to be snapped tonight.
By the way, Jess sneaking in with a super chat here at the end of the pregame says, I don't like this musical chairs we're playing tonight. Well, Derek was stuck in a bit of traffic, so we left him the seat on the end.
We'll get it back.
We rearranged. Don't worry. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled seating arrangement.
And when we're in our seating arrangement, we like the snacks that we were promised for the holiday. I think Jess was going to Justin Nono was supposed to have some.
I mean, we were promised snacks by some other people that
cookies.
work here as well, and I don't see those. So
Well, I count on them. I think they come through with those snacks. So we'll see. But we'll talk about all of that throughout the week. First up, a game tonight. That a 3-game road winning streak on the line tonight as the 76ers take on the Hornets. Our pregame show is always brought to you by Coors Light. Coors Light. Visit them at CoorsLight.com/PHLY basketball to get Coors Light delivered or to find a store near you. We'll be back after the game, and we'll be talking about maybe 4 wins in a row on the road against this Charlotte Hornets team. For Derek, Kyle, Bree, I'm Devon. We'll talk to you after the game right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.